Yo, what's really good, people? Welcome back to the channel. Freetrade Plus. Oh, how have you forsaken me? Listen, I did a poll on my Instagram a few days ago asking for your opinion on Freetrade Plus, and a significant number of you, 81%, felt that Freetrade Plus isn't worth it. Only 19% of you felt that Freetrade Plus is valuable. And I never actually gave you my opinion on Freetrade Plus. Now, as many of you guys know, Freetrade was the very first investing app that I decided to use for long-term investing. I was historically trading before that for a few years with eToro, as I've mentioned on multiple occasions, but I was looking for a home for long-term investing, somewhere I can put my assets in and just let it ride for the long term. And a friend recommended Freetrade to me. I looked it up. It looked spot on for exactly what I was looking for, and obviously the rest is history. And you guys have been seeing, the portfolio updates that I do on now a weekly basis, and other free trade relevant information that I give every now and then, whether it be crowdfunding or other stuff that's going on with the platform. So yeah, I'm a massive free trade advocate. I have been an advocate for a long time. I do get other platforms approaching me, asking me to do promotional work for their platforms, and a lot of the times I don't do it, not because there's anything wrong, but I don't really like putting things out there that I don't believe in or really want to use myself. So I am a massive advocate for free trade, but I have not given you my opinion on what I believe on Freetrade Plus. And considering the fact that many of you are actually watching this channel, are actually using Freetrade because of my recommendations, and I'm just basing this on the free share numbers that I've received over the last however many months, I feel like it's only right that I give you my opinion on whether or not I feel Freetrade Plus is worth it. So yeah, let's get straight into this. Freetrade Plus launched at $9.99 per month, and from a price point perspective, if you want to ask me, do you feel that this is worth it purely on a price point perspective, I would say that, look, I understand the price point. One of the reasons why I understand the price point is because historically Freetrade used to have the basic trades and they used to have the instant trades, and the instant trades are £1 per trade. And I initially was like, I'm only doing basic trades, and then as time went on in the market, I wanted to get my trades in because of certain events that were happening, and I weren't really willing to wait for the batch trades at the end of the day, and sometimes they were rejected and failing, and meant I had to wait a whole nother day to get certain trades in. So I started actually using instant trades a lot. And when Freetrade decided to make instant trades free for everyone forever, I thought that's a significant move and a really big step in the right direction. So from my personal perspective, I always felt with my commercial hat on, they are going to have to try and recoup that at some point. And they are a business at the end of the day. They're not a charity. And so eventually they're going to have to start making a certain amount of revenue from us, their subscribers, in order to be a sustainable business going forward in the future. So as a price point goes, I wasn't really surprised. £120 a year, or 199.91, or whatever the figure is, a year, it wasn't really that surprising. The question for me became, what actually are the contents of that? What actually are the features and benefits that's going to make that a really compelling value proposition? And that's what we're going to explore and break down today. So the first one talks about even more stocks. I'm going to get to that at the very end because I don't want to start with that. I think that's a really important topic to unpack. So stay to the end of the video if you want to know my feeling on the even more stocks. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is limit orders and stop losses. If you want my personal opinion, I don't believe that these are value added features. Most trading platforms, eToro, Trading 212, IG, Interactive Brokers, whoever else, gives you limit orders and stop losses. The ability to buy at a certain price point, the ability to come out of your position once your stock falls to a certain price point. So just as a functionality, I don't believe that this is a functionality that warrants me personally paying any additional money. The other reason why I don't believe is because I slightly don't believe that this aligns to Freetrade's goals and objectives, particularly for the type of persona or the type of investor I personally believe they're seeking. So the type of investor I believe Freetrade are seeking are people that want to buy and hold positions for the long term. Now that could be people dollar cost averaging, that could be putting a lump sum in, etc. But irrespective of which camp you kind of sit on, I don't believe the type of investor they're targeting are ones that are going to be really specific on the price points, or worried that if it drops below a certain point, then the trade needs to automatically close. Typically, that's a trading behavior and a trading mentality. Not only that, to actually really manage your stop loss as well, you actually need a full trading platform. And what I mean by that is, when I used to trade and I used to do day trading for a few years, my stop losses were set based off charting patterns. So when I would do a pattern and I would draw the certain lines, I would know that this line is my resistance, this line is my support line. And if I have a support line, that might be where I put my stop loss, or maybe my stop loss will be a few pips, etc. above that, so that if it's going towards that direction, I come out of my trade. Because if I'm trading, specifically if I'm using leverage as well, then that's certain amounts of movements, like a 2 or 1% movement, can actually be quite significant. I've got Aviva, Barrett, Imperial Brands. If Imperial Brands falls to a certain price point, I'm not gonna stop out of it with Freetrade. Like, it doesn't appeal to me, or that's not the type of behavior I'm gonna display. I would either sell it just because it got too low and I don't believe in the business long term, or I might dollar cost average and just average it down and see where it gets to at some stage in the future. But I'm not going to be saying if it hits £16.78 I need to get out of that trade. So for me personally, the stop loss isn't something that I feel is really suitable for this type of investor. However, if they want to be targeting more different types of traders and investors, then so be it. I just feel like it's slightly an incomplete picture. In and of itself, it's not that useful. I think you need it accompanied with a graph and with the ability to draw your support and resistance lines and all of those things. So from my personal perspective, I think it's going to be good and useful for some people. It's just not really for me personally. The next thing was priority customer service. I've contacted Freetrade's customer service on a number of occasions and have received a response in a decent amount of time. Now, the time has gotten longer, but I just put that down to the fact that the customer service team is going to grow at a certain rate and their customers is growing at a higher rate. And naturally, if you have 200,000 customers and maybe 10 or 20 customer service agents, there is obviously going to be an SLA in terms of how much time you'll have to wait in terms of getting contacted. There's not been anything that urgent for me that I needed a response within X amount of time. So again, for me personally, it's not something that I personally would want to pay for or need to pay for. But there might be some of you out there that, are struggling with certain things. Maybe you have some complex issues and you do need that service early. I think of things like First Direct. When I used to work in banking, we used to always get, these morning meetings and talking about competitors and so forth. And First Direct was the bank that was spoken about all of the time as, the benchmark in customer service and the benchmark in, response times and SLA. So if I was to pay for something that came with a feature like priority customer service, one of the things I would personally want to know is, what is the SLA? Can you guarantee that I'll get a response within an hour or within 2 hours or within 30 minutes? That's what I would really want to know. If you could say, look, I guarantee you'd get a response within 30 minutes, then actually that might be kind of useful, because, as things grow and as the company grows to 1 million users one day, knowing that you will, rather than wait 3 days for a response, but you can get a response within 30 minutes, that actually might become useful, specifically or especially if they've got, more account types or more complex products and services. So as things go now, it's not really a complete proposition for me, but maybe at some point in the future. The next thing was stocks and shares ISA. Now, with my, my advertising standards agency, my Ofcom hat on, and I never worked for any of those two companies, but with my regulatory hat on, I'm not really sure. I think in another press release I read free stocks and shares ISA. Like, not really sure you can say that. I'm not really sure you can say that, because effectively you are paying for your stocks and shares ISA, irrespective of whether you're on the plus or on the normal account. And effectively, the way I see this is that I already pay for my stocks and shares ISA. So, in essence, I'm paying £7 for the additional features. That's the way I personally view it, because I use the stocks and shares ISA. So this for me is everything else worth £7 a month, considering the fact that I already pay for my stocks and shares ISA. Now, as a broader feature goes, let's take the Ofcom and the advertising standard stuff away. When you look at the competitors that are doing it for free, I think you got to ask yourself whether or not Freetrade should be trying to match that versus trying to charge for it. Me personally, obviously it's their business. I don't work there, I don't work for them, I'm not on payroll. They can do what the heck they want to do. But me personally, I kind of feel that this is probably not the right play, personally speaking, just because of what competitors are doing. And I think people will then, start to lean towards competitors if they feel that, they have to pay for certain things that competitors are already doing for free. Now, if competitors aren't doing something, or they're not doing it very well, and Freetrade want to charge for that, then that's a completely different story. And I'm all for that. This is capitalism. Competition is good, and it helps us all as consumers in the long run. But in an environment where you've already got established players doing certain things, then I'm not sure this is a great thing for Freetrade. So yeah, it's a bit of a thumbs down for me from the stocks and shares ISA front. The last one, or the second to last one, is curated stock collections. So I think I saw an image somewhere that they've got a stock collection called like Women CEO, where I think it's useful information. There's a lot of data that suggests, as an example, this is just one collection, there's a lot of data that suggests that a lot of the companies that are run by women are actually better performing companies. Look at AMD as an example, always making dough, ran by Lisa Su. I just got Cloudflare, that's ran by, I think her name is Michelle Zayat something. I'm apologizing, I didn't get the name off the top of my head correctly, but it's ran by a woman CEO, and I'm a bit of a believer in that, I'm not gonna lie to you. So you might get collections like that actually then help you discover and find new stocks, which I think is a nice feature. I think it's an exciter feature, I think it's excitable. But is it a mandatory feature? Is it something you should pay £7 for? So me personally, that sound was basically me saying I don't really know. I think it depends on the individual. But for me personally, it's not. Like, I don't mind putting in the hours of research, finding out, all of this information and discovering things. You guys have seen me do, copious amounts of spreadsheets and research and all kinds of other stuff. Like, I'll put the hours in. It don't bother me personally, but some of you guys are less sad than me, and you guys have a life that you want to live. So if the work can be done for you, then why not, if you're willing to pay for it. So yeah, again, not something necessarily for me, but for some of you out there, I can understand why maybe that could be beneficial. The last one I wanted to talk about was obviously more stocks. Now, this one out of all of them, I'm not gonna lie, Freetrade, I disagree with this the highest out of all of them. For me, I think for a number of you, one of the reasons why you're joining Freetrade is that obviously you can trade for free. It's in the name, right? Getting commission-free access to stocks, and not having to pay to trade certain securities like you would on Hargreaves Lansdown or AJ Bell, etc. Which it has the combinations and the price and interactive investor and so forth up there. By putting certain stocks behind a paywall, I think it kind of goes against the mission of Freetrade. Effectively, it is now commission-based invested. Now, it's not commission per the security. It's not saying that, you have to pay £3 to trade this stock and then £3 to trade that stock. But even if you are paying, let's say you trade 10 stocks a month and you pay £9.99, technically you're paying £1 commission on a stock, if that's like the only feature you really care about. So, technically speaking, I see it as a commission now, and I don't see it as a commission-free broker if you are paying for specific stocks. I think that, to have stocks behind a paywall, for me, from a technical standpoint and from a user experience standpoint, I don't think that makes that much sense. Like, how are you defining what stocks go behind the paywall versus what stocks are free? Is it based on popularity? Is it based on market cap? Is it based on obscurity, like maybe only AIM stocks or really speculative risky stocks? Is it based off region? Is it regionally based? What if you've got an instance whereby someone's holding an existing stock that you now have decided you feel like it should be a plus stock. Like maybe that scenario won't happen, but imagine if I'm holding Cloudflare as an example and they decide, you know what, Cloudflare is a plus stock, so you know you can no longer buy into it unless you upgrade to plus as an example. That's going to be, you know, quite a disruption to the journey. Or if it's the other way around, let's say you do join plus for a couple of months, you buy some of these exclusive stocks, and then after a while you feel like, you know what, plus isn't really worth it for me, and you want to downgrade to basic. What happens to your existing stocks then? Do you have to sell out of those positions? Is it that you can't add any more money to it? Is it that because you had it before, you've always got it? Like, what is the UX rules around that? And I don't know if they've already said it. Maybe they've already launched that information. I personally haven't seen it, but I think, you know, from a technical and from a UX standpoint, I think it's going to be a bit of a tricky one to manage. And, you know, me personally, when I think of value propositions, I think about, you know, trying to understand your consumer, trying to understand the competitors, and seeing, you know, what is your opportunity. Your biggest opportunity is to, you know, to find a compelling proposition that, you know, helps you, you know, increase your balance sheet, but at the same time, you know, gives your customers what they want. And I think for me, there's so many other things that Freetrade could be potentially looking at doing, and maybe they will be doing. I think, like I said at the beginning, this is a platform. I think this is a platform for greater things in the future for the Plus account, and I'm sure that they will be packing it with a lot more stuff in the future. But, you know, things that I would like to see that potentially would convert me would be, you know, more account types, things like junior ISAs, things like SIPs, things like licenses, having that all bucketed in, so you could have all of those different account types within your Freetrade Plus, and they would all be not free, but, you know, you would have to pay individually or separately for them. Things like 0FX, you know, obviously you can see here that Freetrade charges spot rate plus 0.5%, and that can get kind of costly, particularly if you dollar cost average, you know, US stocks as an example. And if you're doing like, actually it depends, irrespective of what amount you're doing, because it's a percentage base, it can start to add up. So, you know, having that potentially free, similar to what Trading 212 have, is something that I think would be interesting. When you think of things like maybe having a you know, cash is a form of investment. Cash is one of the 8 asset classes, and so anyone that tells you that cash is an investment is an investment, cash and cash equivalents. So maybe if you wanted to have 20% of your portfolio in cash rather than have it in your bank with Halifax, or, you know what I mean, Clydesdale, or one of them, I'm just calling obscure banks, but Clydesdale is now CYBG, which I think is now Virgin Money, which I hold. Anyway, regardless, wherever your money is sitting, imagine if obviously you could put that money in cash within Freetrade and get like 1%. I think Monzo Plus, Chuck, gives you up to 1%, or gives you 1% for up to £2,000 that you might hold in a Monzo Plus account, and you've got to pay, you know, £5 for the Monzo Plus account. So I think, you know, doing something like that potentially could be suitable. The big hitters for me would be things like portfolio analysis and insights, news and more information. Things like, you know, data on dividends, ex-dividends, pay dates, fundamentals to do with the stock. I think anytime you're looking at things that consumers and people that use the platform are already paying for with other goods and services, that for me is the best way to make a value added proposition, and then to obviously convert those customers. Because I pay Simply Wall Street, and I pay, what was it, £80 a year, something like that. If not saying all of those features have to be there, but if some of those features were now there within my Freetrade account, that would then potentially save me from having to pay for Simply Wall Street. I know some of you guys use other services as well, where you get a lot of data and information and insights and so forth. But I think, you know, making it simple just to see all of the ex-dividend data, all of the dividend data and information, all of the fundamentals, that's important when you're assessing your stocks. Maybe like 5 or 6 or recent news articles, you know, with those stocks, you know, your portfolio analysis and insights, you know, benchmarking against competitors, you know, seeing how well you're performing, your total return, your money weighted return, your return for this year versus last year, all of that stuff. You know, I would personally, as a bit of a geek, like, I would pay for that stuff, because then, you know, it's information that I personally would like to see, and, you know, I think a lot of you guys might like to see. So that type of stuff I definitely would pay for, and if that gets included in the future, great. But at this current moment, I think charging for stocks, just for me, isn't really it for me, personally speaking. That's just my personal opinion. So yeah, overall, I would have to agree with the 81%. Freetrade Plus is not something that I personally would pay for. If they introduce some sort of scheme whereby, you know, you introduce people to the platform and then you get like a month free of Freetrade Plus, or 2 months free, or 3 months free, then actually I would welcome it, and I would definitely try it. You know, because at least that way they're growing their users and you're getting something in return for doing that. So, you know, that might also be a way that Freetrade can market it slightly better and, you know, get the opportunity to grow it. So I would be interested in things like that. But standalone, just paying $9.99 straight out for it, at the moment, it's definitely not something that would be you know, suitable for me, based off the reasons that I mentioned before. But, you know, they did mention and much more, so I will be paying close attention to this, seeing what they do long term, seeing what they do in the future, and who knows, maybe it becomes a compelling proposition that I find value in and potentially will get at some stage in the future. So yeah, that's my genuine honest opinion about Freetrade Plus. I completely understand why they're doing it. Just I'm probably not the right consumer for this product, but some of you out there will be. So listen, this is not to deter you from Freetrade Plus. I'm trying to be as impartial as I possibly can and just be fair and balanced on it, on reflection. If some of you guys feel like some of this is worth it for you, then by all means, you know, request your invite, get on the beta, and you know, enjoy this product. Ultimately, whatever suits you in terms of helping you achieve your investment goals is, you know, it's completely down to you. So yeah, I respect that either way. Just for me personally, to answer some of those questions that I've been getting in the DMs about, you know, when are you going to tell us how you feel about it, this is it for me personally. It's not it, but you know, maybe at some stage in the future it will be. So yeah, hopefully you found this video useful. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you next time with another investment video.